Welcome back. Now, very interesting discussions. We've just concluded them right here on KUTV, leveraging social media to improve sales and the role of mathematics in our society, or the importance of having mathematics in our curriculum, whether it should be compulsory or not. If you missed that, then you need to go back kidogo usikize. But before you go back there, we have a very interesting discussion right now with our very own Ojwang Mariam. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. This is a newspaper review. For a minute, I thought that today, ulitu snob.
I nearly sent a text to my maths teacher.
Have your mic, Ojwang.
Sorry. I nearly, bado yangu naiambia, niko na lapel sasa juu nimeingiza mao. I nearly texted my maths teacher and to ask, hapa ni wapi? Mwalimu wa maths, hapa ni wapi?
Before we continue, Ojwang, do you think maths should be compulsory or not?
Math, acha nikwambie. Sijawahi kataa that maths kuwa ngumu kwangu. But maths is a must for everyone. You live maths, you sleep maths, even when you die, bado tunakupigia hesabu. Then why are you telling us that we should not be having mathematics? Hata kama wataka unitoe hapo uniingishe TVET, nifanye plumbing, as long as we need sustainability, we need to have skills to do with maths in everything. Ndo ukipiga hesabu yako si ni shilingi na ingine. Nilisikia ukiwaambia mambo ya factorial. People huko nje wanakuwa confused na mambo ya factorial. Juu ni maths bado. You can't escape maths.
You can't escape
from the point yenye a sperm had to add 1 + 1 with an oval for you kuwe created. Wewe na maon ndoa yenu ilianza hapo hivyo. Wewe na boyfriend, wewe na bwana mmepatana mao ikiwa hapo hivyo.
Very interesting. So when your family maths will be compulsory. No, John. We are looking at our papers this morning, and let's begin by standard. You know, standard is a darling of the people.
They have set the standard.
They are setting the standard. Now, the biggest headline on Standard this morning is Goons on Rampage. A growing wave of targeted attacks against government critics is spreading across the country, defying the very essence of law and order. The perpetrators, bold goons, often chant slogans in support of the top politicians as police stand and watch. This trend has raised concern that Kenya's democratic space is shrinking, with dissenting voices facing greater threats. So they've had a number of people who are on the front page. We have the funeral of Bibirioni village. That was Rigathi Gachagua. We have Salasia. We have ex-Mungiki leader. So this is a growing trend. And I know I'm not supposed to ask for your opinion because your opinions are so long. But let me just ask you, Juan. Should we be worried as a country when it comes to democracy, of airing our views, the freedom of speech?
I'm not worried about democracy of this country. I say this time and again. If we still have a constitution yenye hata ikiwa mutilated aje, bado kuna mtu usimama anasema na hapa ya kwamba hii katiba nitailinda. I cannot be worried about that democracy. As long as people went out in the streets in the year 2024, rejected a bill that had been passed in the first reading and second reading and was awaiting presidential assent, but Kenyans still said no, I cannot be worried about our democracy. It's time that we need. Everything is aligning. It's time that we need, and democracy will have its win. Wanasemaga, majority have their way and minority have their say. That's democracy. Kila mtu akona say. Unapata kama saizi goons go on rampage. Wewe ukitokea useme kitu nzuri, like usifu mtu. Si useme kitu nzuri, usifu mtu. There are terms that are being used. In town, in Nairobi utasikia mbwegze. If you hear mbwegze, no, Sakaja is roaming around and he is smiling with his dimples. But ukitokea pale hivyo useme haiwak, you are termed as a criminal and you will be facing abductions, being held incommunicado. But if you are praising, inakuwa ni kitu ingine. Who are these people that we are calling goons? It's you and I, Sylvia. It's our fellow youths. Leo ukitokea umelipwa 200 umeambiwa kuna game ya Kenya na Gabon. We don't want to see that shaggy-haired gods must be crazy MP Peter Salasia. What do you do with him? Deal with him. Umepewa 200. Nani hao wanamfukuza? Inasemekana ni watu wa baba. You are still a youth. At that particular point, your job assignment ni goon. Kesho utaamka uitwe na mwingine uambiwe leo tunataka uingie Fifiro ine. This is Fifiro ine in Limuru where there was a funeral. Unaambiwa ingia huko, nenda piga youths wenzako, unapewa 500. These goons are us. But a day is coming yenye tutafunguka macho. Shida yetu ni hatujafunguka macho. Unapewa 500, unajua huyo mwenye amekupea 500 ukapige mtu ama ukatusi mtu ama ukaribu mkutano, yeye ameingiza how much? Sasa hiyo ameingiza millions using you. That day is coming when youths wanaendelea kufile enyewe tunabeba ufala. Utapata wazazi wetu na wenye wako juu yao walikuwa wameteka mtu kara ila kama Mungu. Ni baba akisema right ni right. Sisi ndio same people tunaambia baba kitakuramba ukiingia huko nini AUC anakataa kusikia, anasema mimi ndio baba. Some people call Raila Odinga semi god. Unaingiaje na unashindwa na mtu hapa tu a foreign affairs minister when the former prime minister. So times and conversations are changing. We'll move from headlines kama goons go on rampage. Once tutaweza kuleta food security in our country, kila mtu anakula, ni itakufanya utumie 200 utoke hapa uende Mathare ukapigane. Hayakuna.
Very interesting. You've mentioned something on food security, and on the Standard still the business page says US warns on Kenya's food security. That is on page 33. Let's take a look at that. And also something interesting that Gideon mentioned, the previous discussion that we are having, is that this country, we shift our focus from having important conversation to talking about chapatis. And you know, US warns Kenya's food security at risk despite increased output. Report by Agriculture Office says a country will have to depend on grain imports, household to face financial pressure as global commodity prices remain volatile. So it is raining right now, but as a country, we've always been depending so much on imports. I don't know what the problem is or where the problem could be, that we cannot do our own food. We have the land, we have the rain, we are blessed as a country, but still, in one way or another, we still depend on external inflow of food, that is imports. So this is a concern from where you sit.
Gideon ametoka hapa hivi akasema that no country rises above her policies. Policies zetu ndio mbaya. Shida ni sisi. Can I ask a question na watu wasiseme mimi mzee sana? When we didn't have these fertilizers, what were our forefathers doing? Walikuwa wanachukua kama ni maganda hizo maize zenye zimebaki, wanazitengeneza mahali, wanatengeneza compost manure na inatumika. Saizi wanataka wasemee ukulima hauendelei vizuri hapa nchini Kenya kwa sababu hatuna fertilizer. Waziri wa kilimo Mutahi Kagwe saa hii anataka kuambia watu ati atawape fertilizer inakuja hii ya free. Na Wakenya wako mahali wanasema sisi hatuwezi endeleza ukulima. Tunangojea kijana wetu Mutahi Kagwe atulete nini? Fertilizer. Hii fertilizer ikifika mnaambiwaje ndio wewe upate fertilizer? There are policies that must be met. Tunataka upande mbegu za aina hii ama mbegu za aina hii. Hizi mbegu zinakuwa ni GMO. So fertilizer ni ya kukuja, ni ya kutengenezwa, kwenye inatengenezewa seeds the same. Mkishapanda hiyo seed hauwezi rudisha. So utarudi bado kwa Mutahi Kagwe umwambie Kagwe hatuna seeds, hatuna fertilizer. There is no food security there. Kitambo shosho yangu kwetu kule Laikipia alikuwa anapanda waru, zikisha mea time ya kuharvest anachukua kama kasuku moja anaweka kando of the best. Anasema hizi ndo mbegu tutapanda next time. Na next time mazao yanakuwa mengi. But saizi unakuwa wewe unapewa seeds. Hata tuseme unauzwa bei cheap, unauzwa seeds bei cheap, unauzwa fertilizer. Next harvesting season you do the same. Where is sustainability there? But if we go back to our communities and tell them we have to create policies that favor us as a people, not them as the political class or the government as they call themselves. Ndio toke kwa hiyo situation yenye watu wanasema I'm proud of my country, that's why nitatokea game ya Kenya na Gabon, but I'm ashamed of my government, that's why nitasema Ruto must go.
Very interesting. Now, I am taking us through the headlines on the Business Daily, and then after that, she'll take us through the headlines on the Daily Nation in 2 minutes at most.
2 minutes.
So, Treasury to repay 11 billion loans with Eurobond cash. And this, remember, a week before last week, the last batch of the Eurobond to be released, that is around 500 million, was halted. So it was a fresh deal, a plan to sign a fresh deal for the Eurobond. I think this will now be borrowing to pay the loans that are due. So that is something that is given prominence on the Business Daily. Also still on the Business Daily, US says red tape leaks hurting Kenya's financial crimes. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, ODPP, has been thrust into the spotlight after the US government say that bureaucracy and information leaks were hurting the fight against financial crimes, including money laundering. And this mostly, I will attribute this mostly to M-Pesa and these mobile lending platforms that we are using. Yesterday, very own Laban at NTV did a story on M-Pesa agents being their money stolen, their float, is it float? Yeah, stolen by the agencies who they are under. After working with an agent for like 10 years, then anakuibia almost 160,000 Kenyan shillings. When you report to the police, they just give you an OB number. You report to Safaricom, nothing is done, meaning they are aware of this thing going on. So there's an alert on these cases where information leaking to maybe DCI or any of that, leading to crimes, financial crimes. Still on the Business Daily, Trans-Century taps KPMG in Equity Bank debt restructure plan. Investment firm Trans-Century has tapped audit and consultancy firm KPMG as it seeks to plan to clear $2.5 billion, that is around $20 million loan due to Equity Bank of Kenya. And also Nairobi Prime go down, rents flats on manufacturing wars. So rental charges for prime warehouses in Nairobi have stagnated. New tracker data shows hit by slow industrial growth. We have been complaining in the country for a very long time that the economy is not doing well. On the other hand, our CS is telling us the economy is growing, and now we are seeing that the rates of manufacturing, should I call them stalls? Those in the industrial parks and all that, most of them are stalling. I saw a friend who was been advertising a stall for like 2 months, haiendi. Anasema, oh, there's a business park, we are having affordable prices, haiendi. Because people are shifting from having their businesses or their companies run in Kenya. So those are just a number of stories, some of the stories that are on the Business Daily today. So if you want any more on that, you can get the story. A quick one, please take us through the Daily Nation.
The Daily Nation wameka politics kama headline ndo iko juu. It's about Uhuru's 26 billion CBC blunder delays Mr. Kenyatta and his education and treasury CSs ignored warning. A 25.8 billion World Bank project to build school infrastructure launched during former President Uhuru Kenyatta's second term has returned to haunt President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza administration as learners continue to suffer, with taxpayers now to pay for the past mistakes of state officials. Policies bado zitakuhound. Kama ni mbaya leo, kesho na kesho kutwa. Ini policy on our education inatuhard. Hapo hivyo bado wanaongezea from power to prison. Nani wameweka pale hivyo? Is a man mwenye alisema mimi kutoka leo ni baba yao. So the former governor of Kiambu, Ferdinand Waitito, went and had an affidavit and had his official name changed to Waitito Ferdinand Babayao Waitito. Now he has moved from Babayao to prisoner. What I have learned about life and friends, he's about to release a book. I wish itakuwa noma kuliko ya John Kiriamete. Former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waitito has grown tired of the monotonous head counts before daybreak, in the afternoon, and at sundown during the warders shift changes. Kila asubuhi amechoka kuitwa baba yao, anapanga line. Kila jioni baba yao, amechoka. Sasa anatafuta mawakili wenye watamsaidia kupush bond, apate bond ndo atoke aweze kukesi nje. Amekuwa charged na amekuwa sentenced 12 years imprisonment. Anasema hey,
kitoka huko unapata your wife was married again.
Yeye mjalisha mtu kawa Waitito. He's a Kikuyu man, wealthy, and I'm sure with a number of wives.
Okay. Now, Ojuang, it's because we're still on you, please give us your final remarks as we close this.
Asante. I would love kuweka my final remarks on mambo na education. Access to education or basic education is a fundamental right to every Kenyan citizen. So when I hear KUPPET coup on a NAT as 46,000 junior school teachers join union, nakuwa niko worried na shangaa, what's the future of our children who are in school when fahali wawili wanapigana, NAT na KUPPET. KUPPET iliundwa kama kitu ya kumaliza NAT. Kumaliza NAT nguvu. Sasa walimu wanatokea, nyinyi mnasema tunataka hivi, na hao wanasema hapana, sisi tumesema hatutaki, kichele yetu ishaingia. Huo mvutano, policies haziendelee. Sikia vile wanasema. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, has received a huge boost as 46,000 junior school teachers who were recently employed by the government are set to join the union. There is a lot of worries about hawa walimu. Wewe umeingia mwalimu, umefanya P1 or P2. Umefunzwa kuwa mwalimu wa primary, unafunzaga either Kiswahili CRE. Then siwe ni mwalimu wa JSS, unaambiwa enda ufunze mtoto wenyewe chemistry. Chemistry yenyewe wameishi kusema hiyo chemistry hapana. Unaambiwa ufunza mao, wewe umezoea Kiswahili na CRE. Wenye unafunza mao ni mtoto mwenye anasema mimi niko form 1 junior high school, which we are calling grade 8. Niko form 1, niko grade 9, unaona? Haujui mao, haujui chemistry, haupendi mao, unasikiaga kina Gideon unasema gigi leo wameleta ule jamaa wa mao, yet umekuwa tasked na kufunza more than 50 students mao, uwape basics za high school. That cannot happen. Ukifika home, juu uko jeni na shida zako, haulipwi fiti, juu hawajui kama wewe ni mwalimu wa primary ama wa high school, mara hawajui kama uko NAT ama uko KUPPET. The government, please don't joke with the future of your children, because when you are old, you will be living in guilt, under stress and depression, and you'll want to kill yourself seeing a future that you wasted. Let our children go to school. Let our children have access to education, because it's their right. Asante sana mama.
Thank you so much, Ojuang. Now that brings us to the end of KUTV Biashara Tuesday this day. And before we close, I'd like to remind you that reimaging the future of higher education in Kenya for a sustainable learning ecosystem is a discussion that we'll be having on Friday at Kenyatta University Amphitheater from 10 a.m. All the way to where it will end. So that will be a public lecture that we'll be having with Professor Raphael Munavu right here on KUTV. So if you will miss or if you will not find a chance to join us live on KU Amphitheater, please make sure you tune in on KUTV, because we will also be live streaming in the public lecture. So that brings us to the end of KUTV Biashara Tuesday today. Thank you so much for being part of these great discussions that we have been having since 7:30 a.m. this morning.